Yes, good evening. I'm here also with Zohara Ahmed, who is going to be probably giving the most interesting part of this presentation in terms of the personal and direct experience of Pakistani people who are right now probably the most confronted by these war drones of any people in the world. But I thought that I would start off just giving a few basic points and spend very little time doing that, and then I can answer questions, or it might be just as well if Zohara could, present her thoughts, and then we could both respond to questions. This is a replica of a Reaper drone. It's in a Predator drone class. It's probably the most used of any drone right now for attack purposes. The real one is about 36 feet. That's about the length of this room, with a 66-foot wingspan. It's almost like a huge glider. And these are replicas of Hellfire missiles and 500-pound paveway bombs. And the Hellfire missile is the most used weapon for attack from drones right now. But there's a report that just came out from the British, who are also using these, that they're hoping to get weapons that are more precise. Everybody, when the U.S. military says this is very precise, as though you're putting a bullet in someone's head, the blast radius for these is 60 feet. And so there's no way to be precise in that way with these things. You may have read that the United States has resumed drone strikes in Pakistan as of 2 days ago. And the most recent one of those two, they blew up a pickup truck with 4 people in it, and some people near, and the people were unrecognizable. And so whether or not they were involved with anything that would even relate to a war is, as usual, very hard to figure out. This right here is on the real one is a turret that rotates. It has several different kind of sensing devices in it, and it's said to be very accurate and have a high resolution. But drone warfare right now is fraught with all kinds of misidentifications, and there's a manual that somebody leaked out of Creech Air Force Base where they fly these, and it talks about how these are their vision is adversely affected as weather deteriorates, depending on the terrain they're flying in. There's a lot of different ways that misidentification can happen, and in April there were 2 American service people killed in Afghanistan because of misidentification. Rather than go into any more details about this, there are 2 other points that I want to make. And I think it's very appropriate to think of these as long-term things that we're going to have to contend with. One of them is that these drones are this is a very primitive drone. There are plans that the Air Force has put out to have, for example, an airship that would be huge, that would have a football field-sized radar antenna that would be used over a specific area for continual monitoring of what's going on. And these things are capable of staying aloft for years. They're developing a technology for urban areas that is based on having very high resolution and being able to be used in company with weapons that are much more precise than these Hellfire missiles. It would be almost like an explosive dart. So we're looking at a situation where there could be, over parts of the United States or other countries, a kind of dronosphere where all motion and movements of people outside their homes and the streets and their places of work could be monitored. There's a drone now called the Global Hawk that you may have heard of. They just sold one to the European Union that has the capacity to monitor cell phone conversations and text messaging. And it's got a computer that's able to process information from a number of phones. So you have a situation of technologies that are moving into a realm not only of impersonal warfare, but surveillance as intimidation. And they become then weapons for controlling maybe leaders of Libya so that they would negotiate more with us favorably about oil, or Iraq, or any country in the world, really, because people now know, and leaders now know, that they can be watched all the time. This drone here can stay aloft for 30 hours, so if you go out of your house, it can follow you the whole of the day. And they can be killed also instantly on command. So we're entering into a unique kind of warfare. We've had little inklings of it, but now it's all coming together. And it's a huge problem when you think of wars for resources and how we would intend to control resources using this kind of technology. And the other thing I wanted to say is about fear. When we've gone out on the street, mostly people will say, yeah, I don't like that. But then many people say, but I'm afraid. Or they'll say, well, if this is protecting us, I don't really care what happens. I don't care if it's illegal. I don't care where it happens or how it's done. It's okay with me. And I think in the peace movement, we have been too assuming that, well, the fear will go away, or it should be just discounted, that why, people are, maybe they're too afraid, but it's a very real thing. And so I don't know the answer to this, but a couple of things I think are worth talking to people and thinking about. One is that we are constantly being stimulated to be afraid. We're also living in a culture where religion has disengaged itself from addressing these fears in these wars. Normally during the Vietnam War, other wars, one of the roles of religion is to help people in any kind of real life, general life, handle their fears so that they don't hurt other people, so that they don't kill other people because they're mad at them or they're afraid of them, and on and on. Religion has moved totally out of that realm in our culture right now. It's not like Vietnam. There's no Martin Luther King Jr., there's no William Sloane Coffin, there are no local pastors who are getting arrested over and over again about these wars. Another part of it is that we're being completely deprived of images of people who are hurt in wars. Our own soldiers, the people over there, and you'll hear that one of the things that the Pakistani people in this country are going to try to do is get images back here of what these drones are doing, so that the normal human thing, which is empathy, when struggles are going on, can be engaged. Because if you don't have images and you don't have a way to have empathy, then a lot of things become acceptable that would otherwise be, totally fought against. So those are some of the things I think that, long term we need to think about, that issue of fear, because it is going to be constantly stirred up and thrown into the mix, as it is with Iran right now, too, for that matter. And so I'll be glad to answer questions, but I think maybe we should just